This is for KIN 760, posture assessment for Chapter 5. My lab partner is 16 years old with a height of 5 feet 10 inches. When we first begin looking at the kinetic chain, we start with the feet and noticed immediately that the feet are everted as well as pronated with a flat foot. There is a lack of arch there. Normally, with flat feet and pronation, we would expect a pronation distortion syndrome. But if we look up the kinetic chain, going up to the knees, we can identify that he is actually bow-legged instead of knock-kneed, which means he has a varus stress of the knee instead of a valgus. So he does not have a pronation distortion syndrome. So we will keep moving up the kinetic chain to identify other syndromes that he may exhibit. Moving up the kinetic chain to the lumbopelvic region, we can identify whether he has appropriate hip and pelvic alignment, which his fingers are placed on the top of his ASIS, establishing that they are an equal line of each other. We will look at it from a lateral view. Moving up the kinetic chain, we'll be looking at the lordotic curve to identify whether my lab partner establishes a lower cross dysfunction, which means an excess lordotic curve with an extreme anterior pelvic tilt. We will also identify whether my lab partner establishes a upper cross dysfunction, meaning rounded shoulders and a forward head. First, we will begin with looking and identifying a lordotic curve, in which he has a typical normal lordotic curve, which means not that big of an arch, and he is not pelvic, he does not have a large pelvic tilt, which means he does not have a lower cross dysfunction. Taking an imaginary line from the malleoli all the way up to the hip, up to the top of the shoulders, we can then identify whether he has an upper body dysfunction. From here, an angle should be straight up. Based on the angle of his head with the shoulders, we can identify that my lab partner does establish a upper cross dysfunction. Associated with an upper cross syndrome, we can look at what muscles are part of the short muscles, also known as tight muscles, that are associated with this dysfunction. We have the upper trapezius, located in the back region, right through here. We've got the levator scapula, also currently in the neck region. Sternocleidomastoid and the scalenes, located more to the lateral side of the neck and the front of the neck. Latissimus dorsi in the back region. Teres major and the subscapularis as part of the rotator cuff muscles. Subscap in the front, as well as the pectoralis major and minor. The muscles that are lengthened, also meaning weak, are the deep cervical flexors, serratus anterior, located right on the side of the rib cage. Your rhomboids, here. Your mid traps, here. And your lower traps, here. Your teres minor and your infraspinatus, here, part of the rotator cuff muscles. An easy way to correct this dysfunction could be chin tucks, such as moving the chin back and forth to establish loosening up the muscles in the back as well as building strength. You can do Y's, T's, and I's. Will strengthen the back muscles. Squeeze the shoulder blades back for me. Part of that will be strengthening those back muscles so that these can get strengthened, able to support the shoulders from rounding forward. Foam roller at home, you can place the foam roller on your back long ways, stretching out the arms wide and trying to let them drop down to the ground. This will allow your pectoralis major and pectoralis minor to lengthen, to stretch, and will help keep the shoulders from rounding forward. So my lab partner establishes a upper cross syndrome. And that concludes my lab assignment for KIN 760 for Chapter 5 of the NASM Essentials of Corrective Exercise Training.